Ostensibly, we're told that the spark for this revolt, if that's the right word, came from rising fuel prices and an ongoing disgust at corruption. What do you know about how much this president has benefited, or his clique and cronies have benefited from the fact that he managed to play Russia off against America and get the U.S. to more than triple its rent payments for the Manas Air Force Base, where the United States resupplies Afghanistan in particular? It's where the refueling takes place for a lot of the aircraft that the U.S. uses over Afghanistan.
I would say more than anything that the current president's regime was known for just robbing the people blind. The president's son allegedly is involved with every type of business here, you name it. Recently, there is a gentleman that was released. He's charged with certain charges, and allegedly was involved in a money laundering scheme, an embezzlement scheme, and he was charged by the Italian authorities for taking $2.71 billion, and he has close ties with the Kyrgyz government, and that are publicly denied. That on top of increase in utility prices, where the increase is it's astronomically high. I mean, it's equivalent to a person's month-long salary, and that's a lot. That's a lot here. I mean, these people in Kyrgyzstan, people live very meagerly, and then when you increase it that much overnight, I mean, people are driven out of their homes. And so when you have those are factors, and there is going to be an increase. There was talk about an increase in gas because of Russia increase. That's because of Russia. But I wouldn't say those were so much of the reasons why what happened in Talas, where it first started, happened. The reason why that happened is because they arrested a prominent opposition member, and when they did that, the people just weren't happy, and they did what they thought was appropriate. And I'd say that action was probably the most, when that first happened. I mean, that was the opposition, and that was the response to it. And then from there, it's really spread, and will be interesting to see what happens in the south of the country. I mean, there's current reports that anywhere from 5,000 to 50,000 individuals from Jalalabad, which is in the southern region, where the president is from. These individuals are coming who are supporters of Bakiyev, are coming to Bishkek to meet, to clash with the demonstrators in Bishkek, the mobs rather.
And what would the division be? This is not a division between Kyrgyz and Uzbeks. What is the division between the people in Bishkek that you witnessed today take over effectively the White House and loot, and the supporters of the president whose whereabouts are uncertain from the south? Are they ethnically different in any way?
No, it's just regionalism.
Regionalism.
Parts of this country are gripped by regionalism, and that just comes off from patronage systems that exist here. But again, these are alleged reports, and who knows? I mean, we could see really, and tomorrow we could see as of now, Jalalabad and Osh, which are the big southern cities, they're quiet. But I mean, you could see tomorrow that there could be an uprising. So.
You mean further uprising? And it doesn't sound like there's much state authority left in the capital.
It's very difficult to. I mean, it's definitely not apparent. I mean, police are actually chasing after looters and preventing looters from breaking into buildings and damaging some private property. But the only authority I see left is men with guns. And I mean, there's still quite a few. I mean, it was less than 20 minutes ago I heard gunshots and some type of explosion outside of my window.
And the men with guns that you referred to, Dalton Bennett, these are people who've taken guns from the security forces or who've pulled guns out of their closets. They're certainly not, these aren't government supporters.
No, they're military that have guns. There's
I see.
Police here that have guns.
Oh, so there is a presence then of the police and military.
But in certain, it's isolated, very isolated. But there also are protesters and more members of what I believe is turned into a mob, essentially, that have commandeered weapons and that are using them. So
I know it's late at night there, and it's been a long day for you, Dalton Bennett. But what could happen in the morning here if there's nobody in charge? This is considered a strategically important country largely because of the air base for the United States. It borders on China, and Russia, of course, was able to get a deal when the president played the U.S. off against Russia. They apparently put a military base in there. Putin said he's staying out of it and he has nothing to do with it. What do you think's likely to happen in the morning?
I wish I knew the answer. I mean, I would rest assured if I knew the answer. Nobody knows, because if it turns out these people are coming from the south, I mean that would be a nightmare. But if for some reason the opposition is able to gather and muster up enough strength and are able to take charge, then I mean we could see a new government form here in Kyrgyzstan. But I mean it's too soon and there's no way to tell. I mean, I know you're asking me to speculate, but it could go so many ways. There's so much going on, and I mean, if the only thing that matters is somebody has to control these crowds. There's blood on the streets. Somebody has to control these crowds. So.
And just in closing, Dalton Bennett, as an American, how did you feel in those crowds? And what is the general attitude that the people, as much as you can ascertain, feel towards the Americans, since there's a large presence there at the Manus base outside of Bishkek? And, there is supposedly some kind of jihadi group called Hizb ut-Tahrir, but that doesn't sound like it's a factor in this, does it? No, not at all. This is being an American in those crowds. You tell people that you're a journalist from America, and they're 99% of them are absolutely supportive. They want you to come in there. They tell you how they want you to tell their story because they can't tell their story. They're very, very welcoming of Americans. But you go anywhere, there's one or two people in the bunch that think otherwise. I got kicked and punched by one person, but right after he did that, all of his guys around him were like, "Hey, don't do that. He's an American journalist." So they know that whatever goes on and whatever the United States government really engages within Kyrgyzstan, I mean, outside of the military base, the government does put a lot of money into development stuff throughout the country. Aside from all the controversy with the military base, the Kyrgyz people, they like President Obama, and I have rarely had a negative negative interaction with Kyrgyz people while I've been here, and even during that, I mean, all day long, I talked to hundreds of people, interacted with hundreds of people, and I had one small incidents, but other than that, people were generally supportive, and they wanted to put their story out there. And the basic story is that you say the U.S. has contributed to infrastructure and other projects. Obviously, though, this is a kleptocracy, isn't it? This family and his cronies, yeah. Billions of dollars have disappeared, right? Yes. And that's the source of most of the rage? Yes. I would say that people have had enough. I mean, it's gaff at its. I mean, this is absolute corruption, and people say it's the worst it's ever been, particularly even under Akayev, and he did it in a much quicker, shorter time period, and even he didn't even try to really hide a lot of it. And I mean, if you even look at the position of his son within the government as well, I mean, it hasn't been really hidden so well, but. Yeah. Well, I thank you for filling us in on this very dramatic day you've had, and get some rest, and we'll stay in touch, and hope things clear up in the morning, at least to the extent that the bloodshed stops. But it sounds like the worst could happen, and I thank you for joining us, D. Dalton Bennett.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.